The 1997 Nissan R390 GT1. When we talk about legendary Nissan cars, the first one to come to mind is always the GTR, also known as Godzilla. Other significant models of the brand include the Silvia and Fairlady Z models, but there is one more that has largely been forgotten, the R390. Skyline's heritage and success largely overshadowed anything else the brand came up with. In addition, the 1990s spawned many great supercars, one of which the McLaren F1. Whether that's the reason for the Nissan R390's fall into obscurity, these are all the important facts you want to know about Nissan's mid-engine supercar. It replaced the Skyline GTR LM. We all know the Skyline, especially in GTR form, was a very successful race car, both on its home turf and abroad. It also had moderate success at Le Mans, but by the mid-1990s, other manufacturers started exploiting a loophole in the rulebook, allowing them to enter cars that had little in common with the production version, e.g. Porsche 911 GT1 and Mercedes CLK GTR. Godzilla was suddenly outpaced and Nissan was forced to come up with a dedicated mid-engine race car. It was co-developed with TWR. In order to create the R390 GT1, Nissan's motorsport division, Nismo, turned to Thomas Walkinshaw Racing. The overall design was entrusted to Ian Callum, at the time part of TWR. The mechanical and aerodynamic aspects of the R390 race car were tackled by Tony Southgate of TWR and Yutaka Hagiwara of Nismo. A total of 8 race chassis were made. It shared some features with the Jaguar XJR15. The Jaguar XJR15 was another mid-engine supercar, developed by Thomas Walkinshaw Racing. The car was based on the Jaguar XJR9 Group C race car and featured a 6.0-liter naturally aspirated V12, producing 450 horsepower, 335 kilowatts, and 420 pound-feet. 569 Nm. The Nissan R390 GT1 used the same cockpit, tub, and entire upper body structure, roof and greenhouse. The chassis, however, was lower, wider, and slightly shorter than that of the XJR15. The suspension was also unique to the R390 double wishbone, front and rear, design. They changed the RB26 DETT for a V8. Nismo took the decision to retire the RB26 from GT1 racing because it was starting to feel outdated, for a racing engine. Its cast iron block meant it was heavy and it also had a high center of gravity. A decision was made to bring back the V8 engine from the R89C and R90C race cars, which brought Nissan quite a success in Group C. The VRH engine architecture was chosen. The Nissan R390 GT1 ended up with the VHR35Z, a 3.5-liter, 3,495 cc, twin-turbo V8, producing around 650 horsepower, 478 kilowatts, at 6,800 rpm. Peak torque was more than 521 pound-feet, 706 Nm. Power goes to the rear through a 6-speed sequential gearbox. At the same time, the car was very lightweight, tipping the scales at just 2,264 pounds, 1,027 kilograms. This allowed for a 0 to 60 miles per hour, 97 kilometers per hour, time of 3.3 seconds and a top speed of 221 miles per hour, 355 kilometers per hour. It needed to feature mass-produced parts. This was due to the homologation rules, which required race cars to share some parts with road-going cars. Similar to the Porsche 911 GT1 and Mercedes CLK GTR, Nissan went with the headlights. They came off the Nissan 300ZX, Z32. Fun fact: the facelift of the Lamborghini Diablo also borrowed its headlights from the same Nissan model. The R390 name came from the 1960s. The R390 name follows in the tradition of the Prince, Nissan R380 race car from 1965. It was the company's first mid-engine project and was based on the Brabham BT7 chassis. The R380 was meant to end the Porsche 904's winning streak. In its later version, the Prince R380 had an output of 220 horsepower, 164 kilowatts, from a refined GR8 inline-6 engine. Initially, the R390 GT1 was not race-worthy. Prior to the 1997 24 Hours of Le Mans race, the R390 cars failed scrutineering. They had to be modified, which initially led to the transmission overheating. Despite that, the cars were ready before the race and 3 cars with a red and black color scheme entered. One of them took pole position during qualification, while another finished the race second in its class, behind a Porsche GT1, and 4th overall. For next year, the cars were upgraded to blend with the new rules. Increased luggage space, a longer tail, a new diffuser, and a revised rear wing were introduced. By 1999, the R390 was retired in favor of the newer R391. Only one road version of the R390 exists. Nissan built only one road-legal version of the R390 GT1, which was the required minimum for race homologation. They never intended to sell the car, as it was built for development purposes, as part of their GT1 racing program. Nissan initially planned to build more road cars and sell them at a price of $1 million. This never happened. The only road version of the Nissan R390 GT1 is proudly displayed at the Nismo warehouse in Zama, next to the Calsonic R390 No. 32 GT1 race car. The one-off road version used the exact same hardware as the race car. The only road-legal R390 GT1 is virtually identical to the race car, which means it is a true race car for the road. The engine is a detuned version, codenamed VHR35L. It produces 550 horsepower, 410 kilowatts, at 6,800 RPM and 470 pound-feet, 637 Newton-meters, at 4,400 RPM. Once again, power goes to the rear wheels through a 6-speed sequential transmission. The road car is slightly heavier at 2,420 pounds, 1,098 kilograms. Still, it manages to do the 0 to 60 miles per hour sprint in 3.9 seconds, on its way to 220 miles per hour, 354 kilometers per hour. The road version does not feature a big rear wing, like the GT1 race car, which is why it has a near-identical top speed, despite having 100 horsepower, 74 kilowatts, less. The road car also featured additional headlights in the bumper, as well as a cozier leather interior. McLaren's V8 powertrains are based on the Nissan R390 engine. By now, you are probably familiar with McLaren's M838T and M840T engines. The capable 3.8 and 4.0-liter powerhouses, used in the British supercars, are actually based on the Nissan R390 VHR35 engine. McLaren actually bought the rights to the TWR development engine, based on the Nissan VRH platform. The engine was heavily modified and the only thing that remained identical to the Nissan unit was the 93mm, 3.66 and bore. The VRH abbreviation stands for V layout, R, racing, H, 8th letter in the alphabet, 8 cylinders.
If you liked this video, please share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.